Cosmic News Network. First contact with Joshua Put.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today? Good. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things I'm talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Poet. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. Let's talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. We'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause the times is demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand
First Contact Radio. We have arrived. First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand.
How you doing today? Welcome. Good morning, Earthlings. Welcome to First Contact Radio. Glad you could be here. Today is the 24th of September. 24th of September. Our sun sign is in a Libra, and our moon sign is in Aquarius. That's where we began this journey yesterday, in Libra and Aquarius. So if we remind ourselves of what the tarot cards are, and I like to use the tarots because tarot are symbols. That's all they are. A symbol is a picture that is used to represent something. That is all. That is all that these tarot are. Now, over the course of the years, various groups and organizations have used these symbols, and people who have misunderstood what they're about try to tell you that they're about the devil, and they have also other meanings, that they mean the occult. Well, the word occult means that which is hidden. So these are simply symbols that represent things. And in life, we learn things, and once we learn something, and we learn the meaning of something, we understand. It's like a logo for a company. Once we understand what that logo or that symbol is, we understand what that represents. So over the course of all the years, the ancient wisdom has been collected together in a variety of symbols that makes it real easy. So when you look at a square, you know what a square means. When you look at a circle, you know what a circle means. When you look at a triangle, you know what a triangle means. In this day and age, if we go down the street and we see a stop sign, we know what that means. So they're just symbols. So we look at these symbols because they help the subconscious mind to understand a little bit more of what we're dealing with. So currently, we have the sun sign, as I was saying, in Libra. Libra is a sign that is a sign of balance. It's a sign of balance, and it's represented by this symbol here, justice. We have karmic balance. We have the scales of balance, showing that we have the ability. We are the person, like in this picture here, we are the ones who hold that scale of balance in our hands, which means each and every one of us has the opportunity to balance out our own life by the things we do, the things we say. It's also important in order to move through life, not just the things we say to help us, but to avoid saying the things that hurt us. So in that way, we're able to go through life and have a set of justice implied in our lives. And then we have the subconscious mind. Now, this is the conscious mind. This is what we're dealing with over the course of this next month. We just moved into there the other day as we began fall, as we began this season of autumn. And we now have this new season. We now have this new balancing that's coming up in our lives, an opportunity for each one of us. So we're going to be thinking about that and looking at that balance over the course of this next month. And today specifically, we are dealing with the moon sign, which represents our subconscious, and the symbol for that is this tarot card of the star, which is a woman that is pouring water, the water bearer. We can look up in the sky. We see all of these various symbols in there. The water bearer is pouring out the water, the fluid of life. She has a pond, which represents the subconscious. The land is the conscious, and the female is the subconscious aspect of ourselves. The no clothing is because that there is nothing hidden. that when we look into our subconscious, there's nothing hidden there. We see what it is. We see the purity of who and what we're about. And as long as we can balance ourselves out by keeping one foot on the land, one on the water, in other words, keeping our mind and our emotions in balance, then we're going to move through life smoothly and easily. And one way we do that is by asking questions. We want to continuously ask questions. If we stop asking questions in life, then we're not going to know what's really going on around us, because we've just given up all of the decision making to somebody else who's telling us. And in this day and age where man is trying to control other men, we need to really be careful on what it is we're learning and so on. So let's look at some of the aspects we're going to be dealing with today, starting with this trine here at 11:08 a.m. So what this shows us is that Mercury is going to be in a trine with the symbol of Aquarius. So Aquarius is an air sign. Mercury is also an air sign. So when you have a lot of air together, what do you have? A lot of wind. When you have a lot of air, air represents words. Air represents the words that we speak or the actions that we take. In tarot cards, the words, or the tarot card of swords, the suit of swords represents words. Well, if you take the word swords, remove the first letter S, what do you have? Words. So swords are words, the words we speak. And words can be like a sword, because we can speak words that can be very sharp, that can cut somebody, can hurt somebody. Or our words can be words of healing, that are words that help, like a scalpel, where we use the words to help heal a situation. So we're moving into this trine, which is coming up at 11:08 a.m., where our communication and our ability to want to go inside ourselves, to meditate, to find that calm, are going to be working together, communicating with ourselves. And then as we go through the course of this day, when we get to the evening, 5:26 p.m., Mercury, the sign of communication, is in a square with Pluto. Squares mean there's lessons. Square means we come to a block in the road and we need to find a way around it. The other side of the block is some sort of transformation that's taking place. So once we develop and we are able to make this transformation with our communication, then we find that we move through life having learned something new, and new opportunities present themselves. 9 o'clock, 9:04 p.m. This is the symbol here of Uranus, which brings unexpected change. And unexpected change, a nice, good, positive energy between there and Aquarius. And then when we get a little bit after that, 9:18, we have Mars. And Mars is going to move into Scorpio. So that's really going to energize who and what is going on with our emotions, because Scorpio is those emotions, those deep down emotions that are buried. Okay. And then last, we have this void, of course, which is going to take place at 11 o'clock. This is when the Moon and Venus are in opposition. That's the last phase we're going to have before the Moon is going to move into its next sign of Pisces, which takes place later tonight. So let's take a look here. Okay, so Moon's getting ready to move into Pisces. So we see here's the Aquarius. And it's going to move all this distance over the course of today. So tomorrow it's going to move into this symbol right here. Now it's going to be in Pisces for 2.5 days. Okay? So this is how we're moving along here. All right? And that's where we're at this present time. Tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon is when we're going to move into the symbol of Pisces. All right? Now let's look over at the Jewish calendar. Yesterday was Yom Kippur. As you all know, Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement. I like to think of the word atonement as at-one-ment. At-one-ment. So we're told through study that we used to be one, but then we became separated, duality. And in this process of duality, we've lost track of who we are because we've lost our connection with the oneness. Well, this Day of Atonement, or the Day of At-One-ment, which was yesterday, was an opportunity to get back to that oneness, to remove the thing that is separating us from the oneness. And the Day of Atonement is a day of forgiveness. So the day that separates us is our sense of forgiveness. If we don't forgive ourselves, then we're not going to be at one. We're not going to be at peace with ourselves. If we don't forgive others, we're not going to find peace and oneness with others. So it's very important. So now we've gone through that phase. We've gone through Yom Kippur. We've gone through this Day of Atonement. This Day of Atonement came 10 days after we passed Rosh Hashanah, which was the beginning of the year, honoring and acknowledging Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden, and what happened there when man was created. So man was created. 10 days later, we do the atonement to atone for sins. In other words, to forgive ourselves and forgive others so we can move forward. And now the next big event that's coming up is called a Sukkot. Sukkot. And that is coming up. Okay, Sukkot is coming up on the 28th. Right here, and we see that it's multiple day event. All right, so let's go take a look first of all at our daily thought for today. It says here, daily thought is resilience. Resilience. Success in the higher scheme of things is when a soul that has alienated herself returns. It's the ultimate demonstration of her resilience and her depth. No matter how distant she may travel, in the end she can never tear herself away, for the soul and her beloved are one. So through the forgiveness, through the resilience of moving past the things that were problematic, we resolve them and we become one. Retain our oneness. Now we're moving into this next festival, which is called Sukkot. So I want to give you a little advance notice of what this is, because it's coming up next week. And this is, here's a little summary. It says, for 40 days as our ancestor traveled the Sinai desert following the exodus from Egypt, miraculous clouds of glory surrounded them, hovered over them, shielded them from the dangers and the discomforts of the desert. Ever since we remember God's kindness and reaffirm our trust in His providence by dwelling in a sukkah, a hut of temporary construction with a roof covering of branches for the duration of the Sukkot festival. For 7 days and nights, we eat all our meals in the sukkah and otherwise regarded as our home. Another Sukkot observance is the taking of the 4 kinds, which is citron, palm frond, myrtle twigs, and willow twigs. On each one of the days of the festival, except for Shabbat, we take the 4 kinds, we recite a blessing over them, bring it together in our hands, and wave in all 6 directions, right, left, forward, up, down, backward. Our sages in the Midrash tell us that the 4 kinds represent the various types of personalities that comprise the community of Israel, whose intrinsic unity we emphasize on Sukkot. Sukkot is also called the time of joy. Indeed, a special joy pervades the festival. Nightly water drawing celebrations reminiscent of the evening to dawn festivities held in the Holy Temple in preparation for the drawing of water and in the music festival. The 7th day of Sukkot is called Hosanna Rabbah, the great salvation, and closes the period of divine judgment that began on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, now, this is what Sukkot is. Okay, so it's coming up. So basically the idea that we find from this is that we're reminded again of faith, that God takes care of God's children. And as God's children are moving through the desert, moving through their journey, they are provided, they have a place to stay, roof over their head, food to eat. This is what the 4 kinds are. They're simple, basic foods based on the idea that as they were traveling, they had what was around them. One other thing that comes up with this celebration of Sukkot, also called the Feast of Trumpets, is this is a time when biblical scholars believe that Jesus was born. So very important celebration of the birth of Jesus. Not in December. Jesus was not born in December. He wasn't born on December 25th. That is a day that the churches lumped together all of the different festivals and things to make it easy for people to follow. Whereas Jesus was actually born during this time. Okay, he was conceived during the time of in December, and then he was born during the festival of Sukkot around that time. Okay, the Mayan oracle shows us that it is the 5-tone day. 5 is called the overtone. We are on the wave spell Hero the Dog, which is about love and loyalty. So we're at the 5th position, the overtone, radiating that love and loyalty. And timelessness is our lesson today, the timelessness of what's going on around us. The guide for today is the wind, which is inspiration. The hidden power is our hand, the ability to heal or to hurt. We're hoping to use the healing aspect of it. Like-minded energy is the serpent, our life force energy, and our challenge is seed, growing that which, flowering that which we grow. The phrase for today is I empower in order to enchant, commanding receptivity. I seal the output of timelessness with the overtone, tone of radiance. I'm guided by the power of spirit. The moon phase is making its way up to a full moon. It was pretty bright last night. We're 83% of the way there. And space weather, solar wind currently at 440.9 kilometers per second. Planetary index currently quiet at a 1. However, we have a notification. We could be unstable, a little bit unsettled over the course of the day, moving up to a 4. M class, well, let's see, chrono holes. We got the one here. Looks like a nice good one moving across the sun. It says 26th, 27th. We should be feeling the effect of this. M-class flare possibilities of 35%, X-class 5%, geomagnetic storm activity. In the mid-latitudes, it is going up from 10 to 30%, and in the high latitudes, it is dropping from, or it's going up as well, from 20 to 40. So things are increasing. And finally, up in the sky tonight, Mars gleams less than 1 degree from Regulus in the early dawn this morning and Friday morning. Look east. They're 11 degrees to the lower left of the brilliant Venus as shown here. Okay, and we don't really have any specific picture for that one. This is the image for the next night over, but we're not there yet. And that would be, this is our cosmic weather for today. So it kind of gives you an idea what we're dealing with, so on and so forth. UFO news is up next. Let's jump over there.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. So let us continue on here. We have 4 stories. Story number 1, UFO caught during the sunset in Seguin, Texas, September 23rd. Here's our sunset. There's our object in question. As I have said before, if you want to see a UFO, watch a sunset, few sunsets. The sun is at 90 degrees angle to the UFO, and the cloak which the UFO will bend to light on one side is more than 180 degrees needed, which it cannot do. Thus, it becomes visible. So here's a little example so you could see at the sun, the UFO. Can't see the UFO here, but if you're standing right here when the sun's at that angle, dun, da, 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 you can see the UFO. I was outside in the morning having a cup of coffee when I noticed a star in the east, which is not unusual. The star was bright, and I looked away, and I looked back and along the line up and down, and I thought, that's strange. It's just a weird cloud. Then it changed back to a circle, and that's when things got strange. The circle got bigger, and then it flattened out on the disc shape I have in the pictures. I went to get my phone because I thought nobody's going to believe me, especially my husband. So there's the pictures right there, location of where the sighting was. Very interesting indeed. Next, we jump over here to this article, which tells us that the MI5 paid people to fake crop circles to discredit UFO research. A former RAF engineer has sensationally claimed MI5 paid hoaxers to create fake crop circles to discredit genuine UFO sightings as part of the Men in Black cover-up agenda. David Clayton, who is an expert on crop circles and animal mutilations, both allegedly carried out by visiting aliens, told the UFO Truth magazine International Annual Conference of a sinister plot by spooks to ensure the truth never gets out. Mr. Clayton told us of crop circles in the 80s that could not have been made by hoaxers and therefore must have been made by alien origin because the plants within the circle had been and not been flattened by physical force but by heat. There are many UFO believers who claim some crop circles are what is left after flying saucer lands in a field. Mr. Clayton admitted that most crop circles had been highlighted since the 19s were fakes, but real ones had been found. He claimed British intelligence agencies were behind the bulk of the crop circles to make genuine research seem ridiculous. He said MI5 were paying people to muddy the waters. Gary Hessline, a fellow ufologist who organized the event in Holmesworth, West Yorkshire, there had been a deliberate policy by the authorities to downplay or debunk any unexplainable activity. All right, well, if we recall in the past, there was information that the CIA was trying to take credit for the Roswell thing, and now this. What do we believe? Sometimes it's kind of difficult to believe because the waters are muddied by these individuals who do such things. Which ones are real, which ones are not? We have to look with a more discerning eye to be able to tell. Predicted a lunar wave filmed. Wave Hunters, September 23rd. An interesting prediction by Crow777 of YouTube. I have seen the lunar wave for myself in my Sony camera and I always believe it due to the moon being an artificial structure in itself. Yes, I believe the moon is an actual massive alien ship. I thought the waves of the moon were trying to keep itself in orbit with small bursts of energy. This lunar wave was filmed on the 20th of September, which makes this second predicted capture in a row. Also, Houston Skywatch, Randy, and Crow meet via phone while trying to film the lunar wave. The clip shows 3 stars or lights occulted or blocked by the moon. Lastly, footage of the Saturn is shown filmed from both the east and the west coast, which demonstrates the angles. 10-minute video. I'm going to leave the bulk of the video for you to watch. And he really gets into a nice, good description of what he's doing, where the lunar wave comes in. Okay, and as you watch it, you'll be able to see the wave moving across. Okay, we're going to be looking at the wave from the bottom right, of course. Okay. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that link because you can see much better when you enlarge the screen. And one more story here, one more UFO related story. Does the Vatican know something about a portal on sacred Indian ground? After Tom Horn and Chris Putnam publicly proclaimed Pope Benedict would resign, the Vatican asked how they knew in advance. God told them. Now they're getting a download on what is shortly going to happen in the Middle East. Following the release of their international bestseller, Exo Vaticana, Thomas Horn and Chris Putnam were inundated with requests from around the world for interviews. What they discovered sent shockwaves through Christianity concerning Vatican's advanced telescope, which sits atop of Mount Graham in Arizona. Mount Graham is where the Jesuits admit they are monitoring something approaching the Earth. After the authors published Exo Vaticana, the Pope's top astronomer took an airwaves to the Vatican Observatory official to explain what is happening with the new ET-friendly technology and the Lucifer device at Mount Graham. That's right, you heard me right. Their telescope, it's called the Lucifer. He announced they're developing doctrines on extraterrestrial life and the impact it may have on Christianity. Now armed with fresh information from the Native American people, the authors have unearthed their most astonishing discovery yet. Mount Graham is said to be a portal, a gateway to another dimension. As the Vatican knows, the authors found it is not the only one. For the first time on The Path of the Immortals reveals what Mr. Graham really is and why NASA and the Vatican are there, what the Bible says about the gateways and the beings that wait behind them, the scientific evidence of the signals from life beneath the surface of the Earth, the ancient stargates, their associations, vortex manifestations, and so on. On The Path of the Immortals, your questions are answered. In The Path of the Immortals, authors Tom Horn, Chris Putnam continue the greatest investigation of our time. So what we got here is the interview. You could see that it is a lengthy interview. I'm not pulling up right there, but I'm going to leave this for you so you could check it out.
Is there a supernatural dimension?
And I am going to move on to the next events, which would be upcoming stories. So, you know what? Since we had that long, well, let's just jump away for a moment so I can get my stuff together. Okay, here we go.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Underground is where they live. In the bases that are secretive. We're not supposed to know where they come from or where they go. And if you ask...
All right, let's continue on. Continuing on. So the Pope's in town. Did you have a chance to see and watch a little bit of what was going on with him yesterday? Quite interesting. Big crowds of people out there watching the Pope, hearing what he has to say today. He's going to talk to Congress, so we'll all be able to discuss and know what that's going to be about after he gets done with that. And then tomorrow he's going to be over at the United Nations. So some big events taking place. Some interesting things took place as well yesterday that I want to show you. What I have here is a transcript from his talk. Transcript from the Pope's or the President's talk yesterday. And I think what you're going to find interesting. Before I get into this, yesterday being the 23rd was a day that there was a lot of prophecy or predictions. Well, we won't say prophecy, we'll say predictions that people made about this particular date. We look at this date, and what I find fascinating is people's responses when dates come and go, because there are people out there in the world that are purely skeptical, that simply look for these dates and things to fail. And then as soon as the date comes and something doesn't happen in the physical world, they will scream loud and clear how that date failed and so on. What they fail to miss or fail to notice in all of this, and what they are missing, is the fire, the water, and the air. Because we live on an earth that is a physical world. However, this world is affected by the fire, the water, and the air, the ideas, the emotions, and the words and actions around us. So, were there ideas that were taking place yesterday? Sure were. Were there emotions? You bet. Were there words spoken yesterday? Sure were. Now, are these ideas and these emotions and these words going to affect the physical world? Absolutely. So something very significant happened. In order to be able to understand, we need to be able to read the lines, read between the lines on all situations. Remember, we're connecting the dots. So we are in a period of time that we know about, that there is great change upon us. During this entire visit that the Pope is here, we understand that there's a lot of things that could take place. A number of events of concern are here. And during this time, one of the concerns that we're dealing with in the world is Obama and who he really is. And during the course of what I'm going to show you here over this next couple of stories, there should be more of a revealing of who he is and what is he about. Because he is trying to convince people that he's Christian. However, he has said over and over that he is Muslim. And now when it has been brought up in the media wants to defend his Muslim roots by ignoring that that's the case and continue on telling the lie. The one thing I wonder is, why is the media so willing to jump on board to want to protect this man? What does he have on them that they are so weak-minded that they have to continue telling the same old lie over and over, even though the public is able to find out the truth very easily? So let's take a look. This is transcript from his talk yesterday. Okay, it says the following is a transcript of President Obama's speech on Wednesday at the White House. Okay, starts off, good morning, what a beautiful day the Lord has made. Holy Father, on behalf of Michelle and myself, welcome to the White House. Okay, and he continues going on, and the thing I want to point out, you can go through and read this yourself, but there is something here that I certainly want to point out that is very significant. He continues on to say, here in the United States, we cherish religious liberty. It was the basis for much of what brought us together, and here in the United States, we cherish our religious liberty. But around the world, at this very moment, children of God, including Christians, are targeted and killed because of their faith. Now, did you notice what it says there? Children of God, including Christians. So one would think that Christians were instantly included in the idea of children of God, but that's not what he said. He didn't include them in his first statement, which is why he had the qualifying second statement of including. So who does Obama consider to be the children of God? Obviously not Christians. It's not the first thought. Feeds right into the whole idea of him being Muslim. That's what he is. Is there something wrong with being Muslim? No. But apparently he feels a need to want to hide that from people. So there's something that he seems to feel is wrong with it. He must be ashamed of something that he can't come out right and say it. What is it? Why is he ashamed? What is it he's doing that he needs to be so secretive about? If we're going to look at this next story here, this is a story that we've seen something similar in the past. Again, could be another coincidence. But remember, all information is a dot. We're going to put this dot up on the map, and we're going to see, does this tie in to anything else? This story, and this picture is going around, says cameras catch Obama with horns next to the Pope. Here's the Pope, there's the President, and it looks like he's got a couple of horns sticking out of his head. Someone might look at this and say, oh, it's photoshopped. No, it's not photoshopped. Well, then it was staged. Kind of looks like it was staged. They seem to be looking down at the ground at something. Are they looking at marks on the ground? We don't know what that is. Okay, but there he is. Now, here he is turned around the other direction. And facing the other direction, they're still there. So, and then we go back to this image here in the White House, where we've got the horns coming out of his head, like a double set of horns. So, the question is, why are these images there? Are these things able to be staged? Absolutely. Did somebody stage them? Well, it would appear to be so. The question is why? Why is somebody painting the image of him with horns? And who is behind that? Is that the White House behind it? Who is it that is able to set marks and say to stand there? Who has that power? Is there somebody pushing the president around, some sort of handler that tells him where to go and what to do? Someone who told the Pope to hit these marks and what have you? I don't know the answer to it. I just know it's quite bizarre, and we see with our own eyes the images that are coming out. Very deliberate to make him look like he's got these horns. Okay? It feeds right into everything that we know about. Now, you may have heard this story. There's a young man who has been online, and he's been very outspoken about the president. A very intelligent young man. His name is C.J. Pearson. It says conservative YouTube sensation C.J. Pearson, a 13-year-old black middle schooler from Georgia, revealed today that he's been blocked from following President Obama on Twitter. He's also unable to view the presidential tweets. It's an honor, Pearson tells the American Mirror, insisting he did nothing to warrant being blocked except his most recent video released last week. And during this video, he accuses the president of playing politics with a Texas student who was suspended for bringing a clock to school that appeared to be a bomb. He's used this person as a political prop, Pearson said. The president has used this child to push his radical leftward agenda, and I think it's disgusting. I think many people agree. His video has been viewed over 1.8 million times on YouTube. So now, here we have a response from him. I'm going to play a little bit of this response from him so you can hear a little bit of how intelligent this boy does speak, and see what you think.
So a few minutes ago, a White House spokesman just released a statement saying that I was lying about being blocked by POTUS. Well, right now I'm saying those allegations are completely fallacious. And if you think the American people are going to fall for your little tricks, you're downright crazy. This administration has lied to the American people time and time again. They lied about Benghazi. They lied about the IRS. They lie about every issue of importance to the American people. And they expect us to believe. They expect us to believe that they are telling the truth about this. No, they're not. Because when I got home, I saw it. I went to the POTUS's Twitter feed to promote my petition to make him sit down for a meeting with me to talk about the issues that matter. Yeah, I did. And I was completely shocked when I saw that I was blocked. Because the leader of the free world doesn't block American citizens. The leader of the free world doesn't stifle free speech. Or at least that's what I thought. Because it seems that that's not true anymore. I stand by the screenshot. I think the screenshot is quite clear. He blocked me, and now they're backtracking? Well, congratulations. We have a painter-in-chief, and it almost sucks that this is what it takes to get a response from the White House. True allegations, they get heat for it, and then they respond. I'm not falling for your lies, and no one that saw the screenshot will. You're lying, and it's time for you to stop. You say you have evidence, I look forward to it. I posted the screenshot is there, and that is the cold, hard truth, whether you decide to accept it or not.
All right, very cool. So I'm going to leave the rest of that for you. You can check out his other video. It's pretty direct. He's challenged the president, which is awesome. More people need to challenge him. Now, what is he saying? He's saying that there is something funny about the situation of how this kid is being politicized, this Ahmed, who he claims he invented something. He didn't invent anything. He took a clock apart and put it in a box. He's 14 years old. Now, I don't know about when you were 14 or kids that you knew were 14, but kids are taking things apart long before they're 14. So if this kid is only getting to that phase at 14, I would take him out of the category of being a genius and say that maybe he's a little bit slow in the process, because he should have been taking stuff apart long before that. Kids are taking things apart as soon as they can get a screwdriver in their hand. So we're not buying it. We're not buying it at all. But there's more to this story, so I'm going to show you some things here. Okay? One of the things that we're told is that there's something suspicious about what happened when this kid brought this device into school. Teachers were concerned. Well, why would teachers be concerned? Well, there's a lot of students that are there. We're told in this day and age, if you see something, say something. Here a kid brought something to school that looked suspicious, and the teacher said something. An action was taken, and the kid, unfortunately, was arrested and went through the whole process. Whether or not they did things right, I don't know. I wasn't there. All I do know is that the teacher did what was necessary, because if any of you had any children in that school, and let's say it was a bomb that blew up, it'd be a different conversation that people would be having right now. It'd be, why didn't we know? So here's another story that goes along with this that ties right in, and it kind of helps you to understand why someone might be suspicious. Clockmeister Ahmed Mohamed's sister was once suspended from school for threatening to blow it up. She told MSC, I got suspended from school for 3 days from this stupid same district, from this girl saying I wanted to blow up the school, something I had nothing to do with. So we find this pattern of, with this belligerent Muslim family, they have an experience with threats to the school. Ahmed said he thought that his project might look like a threat and suspicious, and at first he showed the clock to a male teacher who told him not to show it to anybody else, but he did. So, should the teacher have been suspicious? If this teacher knew at this school that the sister had been accused of something like this in the past, said she wanted to blow up the school, according to the allegations, isn't it wise then that the teacher took caution when the sister's brother brought a device in that made people question what it was? I think that was awesome that the teacher did that. It's a sign that America is being played yet again. We already knew this. We're hearing the stories from CJ. He's talking about what's going on. He pointed that out to the president, and they don't want to hear him. Why? Because the president is the Antichrist. They're wanting you to know that. They're putting that out there. They're painting him with the devil horns. They're making him look this way. He's snubbing the Pope. He's been very rude to him on various occasions. And in the own transcript, he doesn't even include Christians as children of God. In the original statement, he has to include them after the fact, as if we didn't think that that was the first group that is assigned to children of God. Okay? Lots of weird things going on. Lots of weird things going on. Stuff is happening. It's a mind game that's happening, and they're ramping it up. So if people are expecting that there's only going to be something physical, maybe we're looking in the wrong place. We have to look to the fire, the water, and the air, to the ideas that are being put into the world, to the emotions that are being stimulated through the activities, and the words that are being spoken to affect what's taking place in the physical world. If we look at these three areas, we are certainly being affected by all kind of ideas and emotions and words that are not in support of who and what this American idea is all about. So, just thought I'd bring that up. Now, here's a story. Sad event which takes place whenever there's an accident or tragedy. Here we have a stampede kills more than 700 at Hajj pilgrim near Mecca. Story broke this morning, 8:49 a.m. Eastern Time. It said the death toll from Thursday's stampede at the Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia has risen to 717. The number of injured has reached 805. State-run Al Akhbar TV reported, citing Saudi civil defense officials. A stampede during one of the last rituals of the Hajj season, the annual Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca, has killed more than 450 people and injured 719 others in Saudi Arabia. The stampede occurred Thursday morning during the ritual known as Stoning the Devil in the tent city of Mina, about 2 miles from the Mecca, Islam's holiest city. Hundreds have been killed in the past during the same ceremony, and it comes only 13 days after the crane collapse killed more than 100 people at another major Islamic holy site, the Grand Mosque in Mecca. We have a stampede accident in Mina, and civil defense is dealing with it, says Brigadier General Masur al-Turki, an Interior Ministry spokesman. Civil defense authorities said the latest death toll is 453, but the numbers have been climbing steadily. Officials deployed 4,000 workers along with 2,000 ambulances. So, certainly, as always, when someone gets injured, our prayers and our thoughts go out to the injured. We're people on this planet. We're humans. We're here. We have compassion for each other. We don't want to cheer the death of anybody, no matter what your ideas or religions or anything is about. Now, if we set all that aside and we look at what's going on, it is kind of strange that within a 13-day period of time, there's two big disasters, we can call them, in areas, Islamic areas. I don't know what this is about. I'm just pointing this out to you. That something seems very bizarre about this whole thing. Pope is over here, accident over there. We've got the clock boy in the school being invited to the White House, but his sister was once accused of a bomb. We've got the president not including the Christians in the Children of God statement. On and on and on. We can't just look at the physical. Here's a result. This happened in the physical. But remember, we got to look further. The fire, the water, the air, the ideas, the emotions, and the words. Those aren't physical. Those are beyond that. And we need to pay attention. Read between the lines. Read between the lines. Now, here's a really good, feel-good story. Paralyzed man walks by brain power alone. A man who is paralyzed from the waist down has become the first such case to walk again after using his own brain power. Neurosurgeons achieved the world's first by transmitting signals from the 26-year-old American brain to electrodes placed around both knees. The man who had been paralyzed 5 years earlier following a motorcycle accident is the first to walk without relying on manually operated robotic limbs. The neural bypass procedure generated impulses triggering movement that avoided the torn spinal cord the University of California discovered. After extensive training, the man managed to step faltering along a 12-foot course while a harness and a walking frame prevented him from falling. Dr. Ann Du, University of California at Irvine, who co-led the study, said even after years of paralysis, the brain can still generate robust brain waves that can harness and enable basic walking. Well, that's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome that these things can happen. Again, it shows the power of the brain. We go back, and I like to go back continuously to this. We live in a world that the first principle is mentalism. Therefore, the mind is quite powerful. Look what the mind's able to do. The mind is able to bypass an injury so the person can walk. So that's awesome. Now, here's another study dealing with the mind. Research shows a path to reading each other's minds. An experiment shows people can play a game like 20 questions using only your brains from a mile apart. You know the TV show Troop, where someone is able to read other people's minds just by touching them? Well, scientists have devised a way to let people actually read minds. In a sense, they can even do it when they're nowhere near each other. Research at the University of Washington and published Wednesday in the journal PLOS One shows how people sitting nearly a mile apart were able to participate in a question-answering game using only their minds. While the study is not proof that people will soon carry on long nonverbal communications with each other, its underlying technology could potentially be very valuable in burgeoning fields such as virtual reality, real-time language translation, and even helping tackle diseases such as ADHD. The way it works essentially is that a person is wearing a cap that reads their brain waves, which are measured by electroencephalogram. One person asks the other a yes or no question via computer. The other person answers by focusing on the yes or no sections on the computer monitor. The answer is delivered to the questionnaire via magnetic stimulation, with an answer of yes delivering a signal strong enough to stimulate the visual cortex and make the recipient see a flash of light. Okay. Here's a little breakdown of how it all works. So I'm going to leave this for you for further study. These are all studies that are part of this program that we heard about, this MIND program, DARPA, and sounds like it's very interesting, but just imagine what those in the military might do with such an application. And if this study is coming out and we're being told about it now, chances are they've already been studying it in depth. We know that Project Bluebeam has part of its equation something that's going to happen like this, where they will be able to communicate into the brain. So is this part of that study? Is this getting people used to this kind of thing taking place? Maybe so. Could be good. But it's just another way someone might try to get into your brain. And in this day and age, where people are convincing people of things and saying things that they're saying and the lies and so on, I think we should be careful on how this might be used and who's using it. It's one thing if it's gamers playing a game and they're communicating back and forth. It's another thing if it's a alphabet agency and they're using this to try to get into the heads of people to affect what they're doing. Because if they're getting into the head of somebody, what are they doing? They're getting into an area where they are affecting the person's mind by either stimulating them with ideas, with emotions or with the words that are going to cause them to do something, the fire, the water, the air. Again, we always need to keep going back there, and I keep going back to remind people that we need to look there. We can't be short-sighted and pretend that those areas of life don't exist, because they do, and they're being manipulated by those who do understand. And we know over and over, Jesus said that this isn't a physical battle. What is going on is beyond the physical. So the clues are around us. What we choose to do with them, it's up to us. But I take that and I put that up on the board, and I look at that as another piece of the puzzle, another dot that gets connected to everything else. All right, here's a piece from Suspicious Observers. Haven't played anything for a while by him, but this one gets into discussing some events around us in the cosmos. I thought this would be significant to what's going on, so I'm going to play this today. Here we go.
Good morning, folks. We begin with the incoming solar tornadoes. They are not there anymore. Last night, they lifted and ripped away from the corona. The CME is tight and moving at a pretty good clip, but none of it is Earth-directed at all. A few hours after that eruption, a smaller pop triggered a north-moving solar tsunami away from the active region just ahead of where the filament released. Analyzing that sunspot and others will be tough with NASA's SDO webpage out of service right now, but we can use the old black and white magnetogram to determine that there must be magnetic mixing in the middle where black and white are interacting. However, the larger sunspot group to the north is another story. This one covers a wide area, but has little to no magnetic mixing. You can see that black and white are well separated, only butting up against the gray, but for a tiny spot in the lead group. Coming to spaceweathernews.com, we find a one-day uptick in flaring, and that's about it. We're back down this morning. Middle of yesterday, we watched a dense, speedy, and hot plasma wave weekly stream past Earth. It was almost certainly that faint CME we were expecting, and its effects were minor. KP maxed out at 4. The story of the day, week, month, maybe the story of my tenure on YouTube is that the Milky Way galaxy has just woken up. As has been predicted by many, from the stingiest academics to the worst fearmongers, the G2 approach to our galactic center has begun to produce galactic flares. There could be CME-like effects in what some have called superwave surges, and I might add that galactic energetic particle events should be considered in the mix too. You see, ever since we've begun watching it, it appears the galactic center flares once every 10 days. But since the close approach of our galaxy's version of Comet Neat, this year the center has begun flaring almost every single day. Of course, there is the time delay, so these things happened a long time ago, but the observable evidence comes right before the actual felt effects, and that's all the time when it comes to space weather. So a discussion must come soon about what these flares could mean for our solar system and our Earth. Other top stories today include Rosetta's water cycle on the comet, zoomed in on the neck and analyzing water and temperature, etc. Excellent graphics and explanations. There is a lot of water up there. Also got a link to NASA's latest phytoplankton story. A serious decline in the northern hemisphere has taken place. Read all about it at the link below. Top tropical event right now is actually going to swing eastward towards China soon. Hawaii is still waiting for something to happen to its southeast.
All right. I'm going to leave it right there. I wanted you just mainly to hear that aspect about the Milky Way waking up, just to kind of tie in to a lot of what we've been hearing and discussing. Things around us are moving, okay? Just because things don't necessarily happen on a specific date, the way that humankind tries to put it into to figure it out, doesn't mean that something isn't going on. We know that there was something behind the scenes between the fire, the water, and the air that took place in 2012. It wasn't the Hollywood version, but the Mayans never said something like that was going to happen. That was Hollywood. Now, we look at these events and we understand there is something important taking place out in the world that we really need to be vigilant and understanding. So, Here's another article. This one's over at In5D. It says 70-year-old prophecy is happening. Rare upcoming opportunity with incoming cosmic waves of electricity. Benicia Dono. The following is the prophecy of Peter Dionov, which regards the end of our civilization as we know it in the beginning of the Golden Age on Earth. Also known as under the spiritual name of Benicia Duno, the Bulgarian master Peter Dionov, who lived from 1864 to 1944, was a being of very high level of consciousness, at the same time an incomparable musician that gave during his whole life an example of purity, wisdom, intelligence, and creativity. For years he was established close to Sofia, where he lived surrounded by numerous disciples. He and his radiance awakened the spirituality of thousands of souls in Bulgaria, as well as the rest of Europe. Some days before his departure to the other world, he was in a profound mediumistic trance. He made an extraordinary prophecy in regards to our troubled epoch that we are crossing today, a prophecy about the end of time and the coming of a golden age of humanity. Here is the deeply moving testament. It is current and so vibrant that one doubts that these words were spoken over 70 years ago. It goes on to say, during the passage of time, the consciousness of man traveled a very long period of obscurity. This phase of which the Hindus called Kali Yuga is on the verge of ending. We find ourselves today at the frontier between two epochs, that of Kali Yuga and that of the new era which we are entering. A gradual improvement is already occurring in the thoughts, sentiments, and acts of humans, but everybody will soon be subjugated to divine fire that will purify and prepare them in regard to the new era. Thus man will raise himself to a superior degree of consciousness, indispensable to his entrance into the new life. That is what one understands by ascension. Some decades will pass before this fire will come that will transform the world by bringing a new moral. The immense wave comes from the cosmic space and will inundate the entire earth. All of these attempts to oppose it will be carried off and transferred elsewhere. Although the inhabitants of this planet do not find themselves at the same degree of evolution, this new wave will be felt by each one of us, and the transformation will not only touch the earth, but the ensemble of the entire cosmos. The best and only thing that man can do right now is to turn towards God and improve himself consciously, to elevate his vibratory level, and so to find himself in harmony with the powerful wave that will soon submerge him. Okay, one of the things it says in here is that some decades will pass before this fire will come. Fire, water, air. There's energy that's out there. It's not always a physical thing, and that is what we miss when we simply try to pin it down to being only physical. And when we turn our attention towards looking at one particular date and saying nothing happened here or there, then we're missing the point. And when I hear that, all I hear is a skeptic who was wanting to do nothing else but be skeptical from the beginning, but bided their time until the day came. And those skeptics usually don't quite get the point of anything because they're so skeptical that they miss everything that's taking place around them. So karma comes back. They get what they deserve, which is really not any more knowledge, and their skepticism is confirmed because they don't find anything of value, because they're completely skeptical, and the universe delivers to them exactly what they've asked for. Skepticism. All right? So, there you have it. All right, here's a Warrior of the Light, page 114. A Warrior of Light shares with others what he knows of the path. Anyone who gives help also receives help and needs to teach what he has learned. This is why he sits by the fire and recounts his day on the battlefield. A friend whispers, "Why talk so openly about your strategy? Don't you realize that by doing so you run the risk of sharing your conquest with others?" The warrior merely smiles and says nothing. He knows that if at the end of his journey he arrives to find an empty paradise, his struggle will have been a waste of time. And that brings us finally to our meditation for today. So I'd like you to go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And exhale. Take another deep breath again. And exhale. And another breath. And exhale again. I want you to imagine this breath moving through your body like a wave. And I want you to think back over the stories of today and recall the waves that we have heard of. Waves of change coming our way. So I want you to imagine these waves moving through your body. These waves from your breath that you inhale. This breath that is part of the universal energy around you that contains within it the fire, the water, and the air. So imagine breathing this into you. And those waves of energy going in and making a change to who you are and what you're about. Those waves that help you to clear out the doubts and the fears, that you might be more focused and faithful. Imagine these waves of energy just flowing through the great expanse of your entire being. And as these waves move through, following along the course, feel the peacefulness that occurs within your body. And let's just imagine as we go through the world today that we feel these waves and we get used to the feeling of them. We can even imagine as we move through the world that we're on a surfboard, that we are surfing on these waves. And at the same time, the waves are surfing through us. And together we are co-creating, co-operating with these waves of life. And we understand our connection to all, because all is connected and all corresponds to each other. So let the subconscious mind continue on the journey of experiencing the waves of energy around us and in us. And let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment. Happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, whole. Go ahead and take another deep breath. Exhale and open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That's the show for today. I want to thank you very much for being here. I want to make one correction on something I said earlier. I said that this upcoming Sukkot was the Feast of Trumpets. I misspoke. It's the Feast of Tabernacles. The Feast of Trumpets came on the 13th when we moved into Rosh Hashanah. So we've gone Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and now we are coming up on the Feast of Tabernacles. Sukkot, again, being the time that we remember the Exodus from Egypt, God taking care of his people, and certainly it is a time to acknowledge the birth of Jesus, because this would be the time coming up that Jesus Christ was born upon planet Earth in a physical body. The ideas, the fire, the water, the air were made flesh in the physical. God was brought down. The Spirit flowed into the fire, the water, the air, and it manifested. It again goes back to fire, water, and air. It's all pretty basic when we look at it. It's the science of how the universe works, of how the cosmos works. Once we learn it, once we understand it, it helps to really look at life, because we have a perspective now that helps us to understand what's going on, as opposed to the perspectives which don't. That's it. Have an awesome day. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Enjoy all of the articles and the videos. Go through, do your own research with them. Check out what the Pope has to say, and we'll know tomorrow what he had to say to Congress, and certainly how they responded. Should be an interesting day indeed. Keep your wits about you no matter what goes on. I'll be back tomorrow. I love you. Keep loving each other. Peace. I'm out of here.